Hello, you are welcome to my tour presenting the HELIOS Virtual Server Appliance. My name is Helmut Szymerniak. I'm giving you this tour to give you an overview what we are doing with our Virtual Server Appliance project. I will present you a couple of slides which will take just a few minutes, and later on I switch into a live tour running the new HELIOS Virtual Server Appliance and setting up some modules, so you will learn about this. So let's start what we got. We call it Virtual Server Appliance. It's a turnkey solution, and this solution is developed that our HELIOS file server solutions can be easily deployed within any major virtual machine environment. The HELIOS file server bundle includes Mac, Windows and web services. The whole idea of this is we like to deploy it in a virtual machine because this reduces IT cost and gives a lot of flexibilities for our customers. So what is the Virtual Server Appliance? It's a ready-to-go image based on a Linux runtime. It has the HELIOS file server bundle pre-installed. Additional products like our PDF Handshake, image server, print preview, basically imaging modules and workflow automation solutions can be added if needed. And as explained, it's ready to be deployed within seconds, and I will show you this in a minute. So there are different virtual machine solutions available. We support the major players, and I think VMware ESX Server, it's probably the solution with the highest market share. Then I got a second runtime. It's the Citrix Zen server, which requires version 6 or higher. For VMware, it's VMware 4 or 5. Actually, we test these days a lot with version 5. And we support Microsoft Hyper-V, the Microsoft solution for virtualizing servers or basically operating systems. The system, it's based on a 64-bit x86 solution, so 32-bit VMs will not work. You need to have a 64-bit, but these days it's no problem. We don't need much memory. Actually, you need much more than 128 megabytes. However, for testing and supporting purposes, it will be sufficient with 128 megabytes. And the system, it's, as explained, 64-bit. It needs some memory, it needs one network adapter, it needs a system disk, and one CPU. If you like to get more load to it, yes, you need to have more memory, more disk, more CPUs, but this is up to the customer. The minimum is what I say here with my system requirements. The server itself supports all major server protocols: NFS, Macintosh connectivity, Windows connectivity, remote administration, remote access via our WebShare products, basically offering web file server, accessing your files from a web. Bonjour, this is the DNS service protocol. It includes a DHCP server and printing system and complete remote administration package. And for remote administration, sure, it includes SSH. So the operating system itself, it's a single image with the runtime. Everything is pre-installed. There is no need to add additional stuff. It's based, the file system itself and the volume layout, it's based on the Logical Volume Manager version 2. This is used to manage the volumes, and I will explain a little bit more about it. We run the latest Ext4 file system, headless Java runtime, and for remote administration and SSH server. And very, very important, the HELIOS configuration assistant to allow easy setup of the system. The LVM, the Logical Volume Manager, it's more or less unlimited. So it supports millions of terabytes, so there is no real limit. The Ext4 file system with the current kernel version supports for each volume up to 16 terabyte, which should be sufficient. So yes, you can do more than 16, but then you need to split this up into multiple file systems. And LVM uses this so-called volume pools, and this is a bunch of disks where you combine this in one pool, and I have a picture on my next slide to explain this. Very important, we can grow file systems on the fly, snapshots can be done, and disks can be added or removed from the pool anytime without service downtime, so while the system is up and running. So here's a picture of the volume manager system. Basically it works this way. On the left hand, this orange disks are the physical disks. You have a bunch of disks, and this gets attached to the system, and this gets assigned to a so-called volume group. We have two volume groups. One is called root VG for volume group, and a second one it's called data VG. And on the right side, this logical volumes. Basically, these are the partitions / file systems you have for your data. The root volume group is for the operating system only, and there is no need to store additional data on it. For the data volume, this is usually where customers have RAID systems behind it or just many disks, and so that's important that we separate operating system and user data. The HELIOS virtual server appliance, it's a dedicated solution. We support the entire solution, so this means it's not needed to go to some Linux vendor or to some other vendors. HELIOS offers this as a turnkey solution, and it will support this, including the Linux operating system. So that's very important because customers don't need to split between operating system and solution. We combine this, which saves money for customers and gives HELIOS full responsibility to make sure that we help you and that we produce a good product. Updates will be supported by HELIOS. So for the HELIOS products, we have a so-called update installer. For the operating system, we also offer updates when needed. So far, we are not planning to add third-party applications. We are looking into backup options, but in general, the idea of this virtualization is one machine, one solution. And if you like to, let's say, add more services, for example, a web server with PHP and other stuff, why not to set up a second virtual machine just for this purpose? So this way they will not interfere with the HELIOS solution. So now I'm switching to the live part of my presentation, and I'm doing this very easy here by just running the whole thing out of my Mac. That's not a production environment. I do this for convenience reasons, that I can record everything and run the presentation and the stuff. So what customers will get, they receive an image, and there will be multiple images, one image for VMware, another one for Citrix, and a third one for Hyper-V. And here I have a converted image to run it in VMware Fusion on a Mac, which is a VMware Workstation version running on a Mac. So what customers need to do, just to double-click this will basically launch the system. So it launches VMware. It launches the virtual machine, and it's booted, so network service is not up, it's still getting up in a second. So now let's go over these menus. I just opened the terminal application because this way I can show with the mouse and with the scroll back buffer a little bit better compared to the VMware Virtual Server console screen, so that's more convenient. So I started the system. Let's log in with SSH, and here we go. So once you log in, you will get a menu which is the HELIOS Configuration Assistant, and here are a couple of menus I like to go over, and later on I like to set up some disk stuff. So for information, to show the configuration summary, so let's do this. It shows me, okay, I got one CPU with one core and 2 GB of memory assigned to it, almost a gigabyte of swap space. That's my network configuration. That's very important to know how you can connect to your server, and it's configured for my demo purpose just as a DHCP. Usually you will have a static configuration. I will show this later. It shows the installed products. These are the products which are installed by default. With the Helios Virtual Server Appliance, additional products can be added. If a customer has no need for one or the other product, it can be also deinstalled and it's not needed to acquire these licenses. And everything you do in the Helios Configuration Assistant, it's written into a log file, so this allows system integrators to find out what you did with the configuration and why you changed or who changed something, stuff like this. Okay, so that's the information. Let's look to the general setup, which is number 1. And here there is not much to say. Usually what customers start first to set the passwords, in this case for root and demo user, just to make sure that there are no empty passwords. And then it's possible to set up the keyboard layout. I have a proper layout that umlauts and slashes and correct order of characters is given. So, that's number 2. Number 3, system locals. I don't think that you need to set this up, but if somebody prefers to have a German error message in a shell, they can switch it to German. Right now it's switched to UTF-8 English, so don't change this. And what probably everybody will do, set up date and time and time zone. So in this case I don't need to change it, it's all fine. So going back to the main menu, one of the very important setup stages is the network setup. Usually network setups are more likely to be done here in the console window, because only in the console window you can configure the network when you have no network setup. By default it's DHCP client. I'm switching back to my terminal just to make sure that you can see it more clearly with my recorded terminal. So network setup 2. Okay. One thing is to set up the host name. In my case it's called demo VM. I just return here, it's not needed to change something. Then for the network interface itself, it detects that there's only one network interface called ETH0. Sure, you can add many more, just go to the virtualization server software and add a network interface. Once I choose this, I can specify what do I like to have. DHCP for dynamic host change protocol, for the dynamic way of doing this, or the static way of doing this by entering all the values. So I'm running a little router here, so there is no need to change something. I quit this and go back to the menu, and 4 shows a network summary explaining what kind of setting I'm using here. So for my demo machine, things are easy. I can return to the main menu because there is no need to change my network configuration. Storage, I will get to this in a second. Helios services, that's straightforward, where we can stop and start services, enter licenses, or just show the status of all the individual services running on the system to verify that everything is up and running. So now we go to the probably most important point of the Helios assistant. It's the storage setup. the storage setup is there to manage your storage, and we spend a lot of time to make this very nice and good. So I'm going into the storage setup, and it's developed in a way that everybody can use this without understanding the entire low-level stuff of LVM, of physical disk, of volume groups, of partitions. It should be very, very straightforward. So by default, the root system is up and running, so you don't need to install anything. But by default, you just connect disks to it. And I have done this when I started, and probably I can show this in my VMware configuration. I added second disk, a 10 GB disk. So, and back, this is my main disk. But it's not needed to set up the main disk because the import process of the virtual appliance will do this for you. So going back to my configuration. So the first thing what needs to be done is, once you have added a disk or more disk, you can create a so-called data pool for the data volume group. So let's do this. One, it will look for disks attached to the system. It will scan all the disks and will find this disk and says, okay, there is a new disk called SDB, fine, add this disk. And now the disk has been imported into the volume group called DataVG, and it shows me it has a total of 10 GB. You remember I showed this to you a second ago. And now it asked me to create a first logical volume. Okay, let's do this. Call it data1, it's fine with me. Size, just for testing, 1 GB. And mount point will be created. So file system will be created, the logical volume will be created. And now it asks me, should it be up and running for Macs? Okay, and Windows machines. Let's do this. Enter the Mac volume name, the PC volume name, and done, it's created. So back to the system. So what I did is I enabled the data volume group by just calling this first menu. When you add more disk, the only thing you need to do is just call this menu, and it will detect the disk and will add this to the data volume group. So let's list the contents now. 5. Okay, it shows me the data volume group is 10 GB and 1 GB is used for the /data1 volume. So this looks good. So what's next? Okay, let's look. So let's add another volume. 6, which is here. Okay, call it data2 and give it, just for testing purposes, 200 megabytes. And mount point will be created, it's fine. This, I don't need to have a Helios volume for this, it's just for testing. So let's look to the configuration. It says, okay, data1, it's 1 GB, data2, it's just 200 megabytes. This is where the mount point is. We show very user-friendly free spaces. We also allow to enter user-friendly stuff. So now this 200 megabytes is not much. Let's change the size here. So I can go to the menu point, extend logical volume, 7. And which one to extend? Okay, my data2. And so the new size, it says it's 200 megabytes, 9 gigabytes are available. So let's add plus 300 megabytes. Correct. Done. Let's list this. Perfect. My file system, it's now 500 megabytes. So without shutting down the system, without a service interrupt, I just increased my data2 volume disk space, including increasing the partition size, increasing the file system without any service interrupt. So that's very impressive. I like this. So what else? Yeah, I can remove a volume group. So let's do this. Let's select data 2 to remove this and delete to it's done. So now it will show me only my data 1 partition, and you remember this probably. So again, usually the first step is to create your data volume group by adding this to the system and say this is where my data should be stored on. So this is what customers usually do first. We have also an advanced mode. I will not dive much into the advanced mode, but this allows to list all volume groups where you can see, okay, I have 2 volume groups. One is called root VG for the operating system and one data VG for the user data. You can add more volume groups, but we prefer to run 2, one for user data and the other one for the operating system. And here we see even the root system works with LVM2, which is very nice because we can do snapshots, and it's very, very flexible. I can also increase the system disk by adding more space to system or changing the swap space. So all this can be done via the configuration assistant. So I just check what else I need to do. Now I like to do one thing. I added, and resources, I added one system called, or one logical volume or file system called data 1, and I like to connect to this. So let's do this in a way that I look to the IP address. It's 28, okay. So let's go to the Finder, connect to server, enter the IP address, and I just created the system from scratch, so I need to enter the root username and here I see my data disk, data 1, and my demo volume, which gets set up, and the application volume. So just mount the data disk. Here we see it has 1 GB of free space. So this is how it looks like when you see it from a Mac, and sure, you can just copy data to this. So I like to show you the administration. So right now what you saw is the low-level HELIOS assistant for managing, going one back, network setup, IP addresses, host names, passwords, very, very important, the storage setup, HELIOS services, and some server administration stuff like shutting down the server or switching into single user mode, or just looking to this who is logged on. And here we see, okay, from my Mac I logged on with AFP, so that's finished. So we have an additional administration package on top. It's called HELIOS Admin. And now let's launch HELIOS Admin. And HELIOS Admin allows me to browse in the network the different servers, and I have my own loopback server and my virtual machine server. So let's connect to this. So now I'm logged on to HELIOS Admin. Here I can see my users, and let's see what we have here. Demo user, it's set it up and I can see my groups. I can also drag and drop groups to users. I can, don't change this, I can sort them. I can see my volumes, and you remember this data volume where it says it's 1 GB in size, and I can go to the settings of this volume and see, okay, it's turned on, spotlight indexing, it's turned on, Mac connectivity, it's called data 1, Windows, for Windows it's called data 1, so it's visible for Mac users and Windows users. So the Helios admin can manage the let's say every Helios server, but in this case the virtual server appliance. And you can run this admin from Linux, from Mac, and from Windows, so that's very nice. We have a lot of capabilities in this admin, including checking the versions and checking the system messages. So let's look to current system messages. It gives me a list here showing me live all the system messages about from my virtual server machine. So that's very nice that I can remotely attach to this. So that's my tour for the Helios admin and the virtual server appliance. So let's log off here and go back to slides. Here we go. So you saw my live tour demo. No, I don't need to go over this again. And for the virtual server appliance, we offer this in 2 configurations, with a small Helios file server bundle coming with 10 user Ether share for Mac connectivity, 10 user PC share for PC connectivity, and 5 user web share. Or second option, it's the large file server bundle. It's 20-20-10, so 20 users Macs, 20 users PCs, and 10 web users. Additional user expansions and add-on products can be added anytime. We have a data sheet for this, so the data sheet is available on our website. It explains all the details, it explains what you get and the benefits, so that's very important to know. So visit our website. And the resources on the website, just go to helios.de and you will find stuff. When you look for the virtual server appliance, please check out our newsletter here. It's newsletter 0612. And this includes references to the datasheet and some description. And for updated information and just learning what's up, you're welcome to visit me on Google+. Again, my name is Helmut Schemerniak, and just enter helios.de/Helmut and you will, and this will redirect you to my Google+ page, where I share a lot of know-how and information. You're welcome to visit anytime. Visit me anytime. And if you have questions about this, please make sure that you contact the Helios partner in your region, and we will help you to get some information about it. At this stage, the virtual server appliance is better, and we are finishing the product and hope to release it soon. So if you have any kind of feedback or questions, you're welcome to contact us. Thanks a lot.